Hi everyone, good evening or good morning depending on when you're watching this. My name is Robin Littman. I am a registered dietitian and I'm here to talk to you today about your nutrition. During this time when things are a little crazy for all of us, nutrition is a good thing to focus on. It is something that you can control. So make use of this time, make some changes in your diets, and perhaps it'll help you make you feel a little bit more in control at this time of uncertainty for some of us. So when we talk about nutrition, I talk about nutrition as a prescription like a medical prescription. Just when you take medication, food is the same thing. So when you have your plan of your day, you think about overall calories. Okay? Take your pounds, the number of pounds you are, let's say you're about 140 pounds, divide that by 2.2, and you get the exact number of kilograms you are. This comes out to be 64 kilograms. You take that number, you multiply it by 25, and you get 1,600 total calories for the day. Now, for a female, even an older male, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you need a little more, closer to 2,000 calories for the day. But let's take the 1,600. Then you take those calories and you distribute them around for the macronutrients. We talked about this last time. I'm going over so you can take some notes and possibly it's a little bit better description. These are the macronutrients. You've heard of macronutrients. It's a big topic now. Everybody talks about the macros and how you're going to break it down for the day. Carbohydrates usually account for about 50 to 60% of total calories, protein about 20, and then the fat usually about 10% or less. Okay? If you take your goal weight, let's say you want to lose weight. You're 140 pounds, you're 5'2", you need to lose weight. You're going to go a little lower than the 1,600 number that you got when you multiply it by 25 kilograms. 25 calories per kilogram. It's so funny doing videos because things go wrong like that. Anyway, if you do need to lose weight, then you adjust this caloric intake. If you do need to gain weight, let's say you work out a lot or whatever, you need to add more calories to that if you're losing weight over time. Okay? So when you think about carbohydrate, what we're focusing on is fiber, right? We want complex carbs, not simple carbs, complex, brown. White is not good. Go for brown. Protein. You want to choose protein foods that are lean, that are not going to contribute too much to the saturated fat, heart disease, cancers, things like that. So lean proteins. When it comes to fat, you want the mono unsaturated and the polyunsaturated. The fats you don't want are trans and saturated. Okay? So one of the buzz topics now is about plant foods, and to really go lighter with the animal sources and stick with the plant foods because they're better for your heart. So there's a lot of talk about that, and that is a good theory. Very often you do need some red meat to give yourself some B12 and iron, which very often you don't get from just plant-based. But if we are going to specifically just touch on that for a second, it's called a plant lover's diet. Vegetarians strongly believe in that. Some people cannot be on a vegetarian diet, it's just not enough. Or actually some people gain weight on a vegetarian diet because very often with a vegetarian diet you're eating a little more carbohydrates than usual because you're not eating as much animal products. But there's a way to do it in a way so that you don't gain the weight. So the first thought behind a plant lover's diet, the reason some people want to go that route, is that it's better for your heart. Reason being that sometimes when people choose high fat products, higher fat meats, let's say, it raises up the LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol, and the HDLs are the good cholesterols, and they're not raised up by animal products. So one theory is that if you stay away from animal-based meats, then you will do better for your heart and you will lower your overall cholesterol. The second thing that some people believe is that it helps to lower the risk for dementia. It helps your brain function better. People believe that if you eat more plant-based, you are going to reduce your risk of catching cancers, like cervical cancer, pancreatic cancer, breast cancer. So there's different theories out there, there's different research out there, and based on the research, some of these researchers have found that people get a lower incidence of cancers if they stay away from meat, animal-based proteins. Now, you also have to look at who's funding these studies, and that's always controversial because sometimes who's funding the studies is some sort of group that's promoting a vegetarian diet. But again, these are just theories, and we're just talking, and it's a thought, and possibly what you can do is not eliminate meat entirely, but use it as a way to choose leaner meats and more plant-based, more things such as tofu to replace a red meat so that you're not getting in that high saturated fat content. Other people feel that a lot of infections out now, sometimes they are antibiotic resistant. So viruses are obviously antibiotic resistant, but some bacterial infections, bacteria replicates itself and mutates and grows. So some of these infections that are out there that are antibiotic resistant are sometimes caused from eating animal foods. Lastly, there's a theory behind protecting the earth, and that many of the livestock systems are responsible for a lot of the greenhouse gas emissions, which is not good for the earth. And so if we eat more of a plant-based diet, then there will be less production in these systems and perhaps better for the environment overall. So what are some of the protein foods that we can choose rather than the animal products? Again, if we're going to take this 1,600 calorie number, right, and we want to find out how many calories from that 1,600 are going to come from protein, so we have to break it down. So if 50 to 60% is going to come from carbohydrate, and then what we want to do to create the number of grams of protein, you take your weight, remember it was 64 kilograms, and you're going to multiply that by 0.8 to 1.0 to figure out how many grams of protein per kilogram you need. So let's just say, for argument's sake, it's about 65 grams of protein for the day, because it's about times 50 to 65 grams about. That's how we could look at it. All right, now 3 ounces, sorry, it's writing like a mess here, but 3 ounces of chicken is about 20 to 22 grams of protein. 3 ounces of tofu is about 15 to 20 grams of protein. Chickpeas, half a cup of chickpeas is a serving. That's about 15 grams of protein, depending on the type of chickpeas. Some have more. Usually beans are about that. The half a cup is a serving. If you have a little more, you get a little bit more protein. So beans, tofu, eggs provide protein, about 7 grams per egg. Okay, cheese provides protein depending on the kind you choose. Yogurt has protein, and nuts have protein. So you can get protein from all these sources, even though this is an animal source, obviously, and the dairy is an animal source too, but it's not the red meat, it's not the beef that we're talking about. But you can still get a decent amount of protein from those sources, okay? When you then take the 64 grams times 4. The reason being, that's to figure out how many calories from protein, because there's 4 calories per gram of protein. There's 4 calories per gram for carbohydrate, and there's 9 calories per gram of fat. So that is why if a product has more fat in it, it's going to have more calories because it's more dense per gram, okay? So if we take this 50 to 65 grams, right, and we multiply it by 4, let's get my calculator going. 50 times 4, obviously 200, but sometimes I'm a little slow with math. 65 times 4 is 260. So about 260 calories are going to come from protein. Okay? And then if we think about then distributing 50% of the 1,600 calories to be carbohydrate. Oops, 1 second, I'm sorry. 0.50 times. Ay. My phone is giving me problems, I'm sorry. Times 1,600. 800. So it's about 800 calories are going to come from carb, and then the rest is going to come from fat. So 800 plus about 260 or 300 is, and 16, so it's about 1,100 calories from the carbs and the protein, and then about 500 calories, so it's, you usually round it out, about 400 to 500 calories are going to come from the fat. And that's how you're going to figure out your whole day, okay? When you look further into food labels and you start to look at the amount of calories in these different products, you'll see how this can be distributed better, okay? So now let's talk about specifics. Okay? When you're talking about the whole day, breakfast. When we talk about breakfast meal, we want to focus on a high fiber carb, some protein, and then the fat. Fat usually comes in with the protein source. So high fiber carb can be something like oatmeal. If you add milk to your oatmeal, the milk is going to provide the carbohydrate also and protein. If you don't add milk to oatmeal, what you can do, in addition to having oatmeal, is have an egg with it. The egg is going to give you the protein and the fat, okay? So usually oatmeal has about 150 to 200 calories. If you have the egg, that's about 80. The fat grams are going to come in with the egg. Sometimes the oatmeal, depending on what kind, usually not so much fat comes in there. And if you have the milk, fat will come in that way too. And you'll get a couple of calories from the grams of fat that you're having. So breakfast is usually about a 300 calorie to 350 calorie meal. Okay? Lunch, around the same thing. You're talking about a high fiber carb, protein, and then fat. Okay? So, what's some choices? You could do something like tuna fish. If you like tuna fish, you can make yourself a tuna fish sandwich on a high fiber bread, such as the Dave's Killer bread or Ezekiel bread, or even potato whole wheat bread is a good choice if you like to have a bread at lunch. The wraps that I've often talked about during class, Tumaros they're called, and they're low in net carb. That's a good choice for a carbohydrate bread type to use at lunch. If you like a sweet potato, a half a sweet potato is an excellent choice for a carbohydrate. Sweet potatoes is one of the most nutritious foods there are, and you get a ton of vitamins, minerals with sweet potatoes, and you get a good, healthy, complex carbohydrate. If you have a sweet potato and you have it with, let's say, a 3-ounce piece of chicken, or if you want to stay away from the animal products like we talked about earlier, you can have maybe something like some cheese on the sweet potato if you like that, like sprinkled on with a little broccoli as a lunch. You can have maybe a side of chickpeas with your lunch, mix it all together. A good healthy fat to add at lunch would be avocado. Now, a quarter of an avocado is the serving, so make sure you don't go over the serving size because avocado is calorically dense, and you don't need to have too much of it for it to provide the good fat to your meal. Okay. If you're going for something like a yogurt kind of parfait, you could do that at lunch as well. I would definitely add flaxseed. You can add wheat germ. Watch out for granola because granola is very high in calories and very high in fat. But you can add some berries. Berries have a lot of antioxidant property and good to fight off cancers. So you could add berries to the yogurt with a little layer of the flaxseed and the wheat germ. You could put in a little crunch of a high fiber cereal like a Fiber One or even a Cheerios that's high in whole grain. Something low in sugar. So sugar is definitely a culprit when it comes to choosing carbohydrates. Many people choose way too many high sugar products, and that affects your glycemic index. It affects your pancreas's ability to release the insulin. So make sure you stay away from too much sugar. The amount of sugar in one day that's recommended is 30 grams. That is tough to do. 4 ounces of orange juice has 22 grams of sugar in it. So if you are one to drink juice, I would either water it down or I would eat an orange because the orange itself, the fruit, has much more fiber in it and less sugar. Okay? We were on lunch. When you throw in, let's say your breakfast is at 7:30, your lunch is at 12:30, so that's certainly a long time. That's 5 hours. In between, around 10 o'clock, let's say, and this is a huge mess, sorry, you fill in with some sort of snack. I would say to make your snacks as protein-based as you can. What are some choices? Keep your snacks at 100 to 150 calories. That's a good little marker. And here's a good choice. Edamame. 3/4 cup. A yogurt. Greek yogurt, good choice. Nuts. 15 to 16 nuts is the serving. Use that as a guide for yourself. A string cheese. Vegetables can be used as a snack. If you do something like a rice cake is going to just rise up your sugars, and it really won't satisfy you too much as a snack. If you do a rice cake, I would say put on 1 teaspoon of peanut butter on the rice cake, because the peanut butter is going to provide you with the fat and the protein to help keep you a little more satisfied and carry you over better to the lunch meal. Peanut butter is a good source of protein and fat, as I just said. Make sure you choose an all natural peanut butter. The reason being is that some of the other peanut butters have much more sugar content, and you want to choose the ones that are just not the peanuts and the oil. Okay? So these are some good snack choices. So if your breakfast meal is 7:30 and your lunch meal, breakfast is 7:30, lunch is at 12:30, 5 hours is a long time to go without eating. What happens is your sugar level starts off in the morning here after you slept, right? You should wake up where it's about 70 to 80. That's your glucose level when you wake up. And then you need to eat, because it's going to drop and you start to feel lousy if you don't eat. So if you eat a high sugar cereal or a donut or something, your sugars rise up super high and then they drop down low really quickly. However, if you stick with what we just said, and you wake up in the morning and you're here and you have a high fiber carbohydrate with some nice protein source, it's a nice steady even flow of your glucose level, and you don't get these spikes. The spikes is what makes you feel a little lousy, could be lightheaded. After you eat a lot, sometimes you feel lethargic, and that's what happens. It's a spike of that. And then your pancreas has to work harder, and everything has to work a lot harder in order to try to digest the food. When you sleep all night, you don't eat. That's your intermittent fasting. That's when your body, your hormones, everything releases and everything gets ready for the next day. That's why you're not supposed to eat at night, so that your body and your system shut down. Okay? So 7:30 breakfast, lunch 12:30, snack should be here around 10 o'clock, 10:30. And let's say then your lunch, and then around 3:30, you do another little snack of a protein source. String cheese, edamame, you could even have an egg if you want, a hard-boiled egg. You can have an apple with peanut butter if you like, half an apple with a tablespoon of peanut butter. You could do carrots. You could do carrots with some peanut butter is a good choice if you like that. If you just do carrots alone, I would have, you could have some salsa with it or something like that on the side. Dinner, what you want to try to do with dinner is stay away from those heavy carbohydrates. And we talked about this last time, and I'm going to reiterate that because it's a very important point. When people are trying to eat healthier, one of the good positive things to do is to eliminate the potatoes, rice, pasta, and bread with the dinner meal. Stick with protein. Make your plate look like this. Stick with protein. Let's say you have tofu. You decide to go with the plant-based tofu. Have a little quinoa, which, yes, can be considered a carb, but it's also plant-based carb. So it's going to give you, it's actually a protein-based carb, and then your vegetables and salad. Make your dinner meal full of fiber. Make your dinner meal focused on the salad, on the vegetables, and the plant-based proteins. This way you're leaner, this way you're a little lighter, you'll sleep better, and you won't feel as lethargic as if you had a heavy, heavy meal in the evening. Okay? What else? else did I want to say this evening? Oh, about coconut oil. So I read an interesting article, and I'm going to refer to that article. They're talking about how coconut oil, and I need my glasses, you know that. Coconut oil comes up empty. Researchers analyzed 14 randomized controlled trials that pitted coconut oil against non-tropical vegetable oils like soybean, canola, and olive. Compared with these oils, coconut oil raised the LDL cholesterol by 11 points. Many times in class, people ask me about coconut oil because there was a lot of buzz about it, and is it better? It is not better. It's going to raise the LDL, not the good cholesterol. Okay? The other interesting point in this little newsletter that I got, talking about if you're trying to cut back and you're trying to lose weight, sometimes all you need to do is go smell food. So, when you walk by a Dunkin' Donuts and you smell it, sometimes that's enough. Not even having it, not even tempting your taste buds with a little bit of it, satisfies a need that your brain is getting something sweet. And it's been shown in studies to work that people who walk by Dunkin' Donuts often feel pretty satisfied rather than going in there and having, because sometimes when you're trying to lose or you're trying to cut back a little bit on the sweets and you have a little bit, it sets you off to go trigger you to have more and more and more, and at that point nothing's satisfying anyway. Okay? One other thing they talked about here is if you want some sort of a sugary type of a drink and then you down a Diet Coke or something, does that work? No, it doesn't, because it sends your brain the message that it's getting something sweet, and it's really not, because it's getting an artificial sweetener. So if we talk about artificial sweeteners just for a second, artificial sweeteners are going to send your brain the message that you're getting something sweet, and essentially you're not. So the need that you're getting the sweetness is not satisfied, and you're going to want more. It's going to make you more hungry, and it's going to make you want more. Stay away from Diet Cokes. If I were you and you need something sweet, I would go for something like a fruit. Serving size is important when it comes to fruit. We talked about this last time. Half a cup or 3/4 of a cup is the serving. That's a good idea. If you like pineapple and that satisfies a sweet craving, perhaps you want to try frozen. Frozen pineapples are really good. Frozen grapes are really good. Frozen bananas are really good. Very, very tasty, and very often take away that need for something sweeter. What else can I tell you about? That's about all I wanted to say this evening. Let's see. Maybe I can close off with just an idea of a side of vegetables that you can make. Okay? Try to make yourself some asparagus for a change. And a good recipe to try would be take some asparagus, cut it up nicely, either fresh or frozen. Trader Joe's has a very good frozen asparagus that if you've never tried it, it's really good. 12 spears is about 25 calories. Take the asparagus, put it in a pan with about a tablespoon of olive oil. You can add a tablespoon of some teriyaki. Whisk it all together. Add in a little bit of pepper. Cover it and just cook it up. Comes out perfectly. At the end, you can add a little bit of garlic if you'd like. Cook it up another minute or so, and voila, you have a perfect side dish in order to give yourself the vegetable with very, very low fat content. All it's going to give you a little olive oil, healthy fat, and really tasty. Okay? So try something like that. I'm almost done, Amy. As you see, the kids are home. Anyway, sorry. What can I say? the time. So I have 3 children who are all home from school, and yeah, it's all going well. Hope you're doing well. Hope you got something out of this class without having feedback. It's, it's not as easy, but maybe if you have any questions, you can forward them to the library, and we can do a little short question and answer type thing too. Okay, thank you for your time, and hope you feel good, and try that asparagus dish and let me know. Let me know how it goes. All right. Take care of yourselves.